Venus and star blessings, everybody. I just wanted to come back and share a couple of thoughts on the Venus-Jupiter sextile aspect. Now, yesterday I spoke about the full moon that's coming up very shortly. As you can see, this is today's chart. So there's the moon in Capricorn approaching. And so I did talk about a lot of different things relative to that full moon being conjunct Pluto and things of that nature, and Jupiter square Saturn, etc. And right at the very end, I did mention Venus, who's forming a trine to the North Node in Aries and a sextile to the South Node. And I made a few comments about that. And about 8 days ago, I did a video on transiting Pluto opposite Venus in Leo when that transit started. And in that video, I did speak about the Venus-Jupiter sextile as well. But as always, things, as we observe things that are taking place in our life, in the world and so forth, and when we're looking at the sky and we're looking at transits and we're looking at everything that's going on, we have a particular mindset or understanding or intuition. And in some cases, we are, right on the mark. And quite often it's not until, for example, a transit as it's beginning or as it's halfway through or something like that, then something happens that shows us, how that transit was really operating for us, what showed up. And so I have a little story that I want to share, which is, as I begin this story, you may think, how the hell is this related to Venus and Jupiter? But it is for me because of where these planets are transiting in my own chart. And I'm going to share this story because it just helps us understand how to have an open mind and how to not be prejudiced, which simply means to prejudge something that we don't either know or understand as well. So as I mentioned yesterday, I have been sick again, and I'm still recovering, but I'm much better today, thank God. And thank you to all of you for your, such beautiful wishes and messages. I'm, very, very appreciative to all of you who send love my way. It means a lot to me. Thank you very, very much. And so for those of you that are new to my channel, thank you for listening, and I hope you find this information helpful. And for those of you that have been with me for a while, thanks for sticking around, and I really appreciate your engagement and your questions and your comments and, interaction. It's all something that I really enjoy and I really value very, very much. I've got Jupiter in my 11th house natally, so that's all you guys, it's just something that I really value. Okay, so also, just before I go into my story and then a little bit about Venus, Jupiter, and Venus to the nodes, I've got 2 courses available at the moment. And in my second course, which we are about 3/4 of the way through, or just over that, next week we are starting classes on the goddesses. And the first class next week is on Pallas Athena, the goddess Pallas Athena, and the goddess Vesta. So if any of you are interested in exploring those goddesses from my style of teaching and the insights that I have, you're welcome to join the class. Just send me an email and I can give you information about that. And I just want to say this, I think Pallas Athena, who is one of the 4 major asteroids in terms of just generally, let's say, most astrologers might focus on the 4 major asteroids, which is Ceres, the goddess Ceres, Pallas Athena, goddess Vesta, and goddess Juno. They're the 4 most popular ones that are often spoken about. And I've been studying these goddesses and many others for many, many years. And the more I study, the more I research, obviously the more I discover and the more I understand. And because I'm preparing a class for Pallas Athena, I've just started doing some further research. And I discovered something in the last couple of days that really blew my mind, that I've never heard anyone talk about. I'm not going to share it with you now because I want to share this in my class. And so if you want to know what that is, join the class. I will, perhaps at some point later, I might bring it to YouTube, this information about Pallas Athena. The point I guess I'm trying to make is that I feel that a lot of people underestimate the power of this goddess and the complexities and the mysteries of everything that she holds, and just indeed how incredibly powerful she is. So I will be explaining all of that in my class. So reach out if you'd like to know more. Okay, so the story is this. I was sick with a sinus infection for almost 9 weeks. And then I seemed to recover, and I was doing okay for about 3 weeks. And then a week ago, or not even a week ago, it all came back again. And the doctor that I went to, and I'm not, no offense to doctors out there, but I'm not a person who really goes to doctors. I just don't do mainstream medicine, you know, unless it's absolutely necessary. Sometimes mainstream medicine can have a significant role and can really help with some acute and critical situations that alternative therapies simply just, you know, they can't do it as fast, let's say. So there are exceptions to everything always. But anyway, generally speaking, I don't really like to go and see GPs. But I went to see this GP when I was sick for nearly 9 weeks with this sinus infection. And I ended up taking 4 courses of antibiotics, which I hate taking antibiotics, but I took 4 courses. Imagine that. And even after 4 courses, it still hadn't cleared what was going on, clearly, because 3 weeks later, it all just came back. So about a week ago, when I was really, really sick again, I went to another doctor, one that I used to see when I was a teenager that I hadn't seen for many, many years. And he's very conservative, very traditional, quite a nerd, and quite into the consensus system, and you know, really doesn't think outside the box, which is the case with most GPs. But in any case, I needed something, you know. I just couldn't let my body deal with it on its own. It was pretty bad the way I was feeling. So when I went there, he said to me, he asked me, because I hadn't seen him for years, and he said to me, are you allergic to anything? And I said, yes, I'm allergic to penicillin. And he said, okay. So he noted it in my file. And then he said to me, what antibiotics did you take a few weeks ago when you were sick? So I showed him the name of the antibiotics that I took. And he looks at me and he said, you can't be allergic to penicillin because this antibiotic has penicillin in it. And I was like, I nearly fell off my seat, because for the last 25 years, I've thought that I was allergic to penicillin. So as it turns out, I'm not. And there is a backstory as to why I thought I was, but I won't bother going into that. Now, why is this story significant to Venus-Jupiter? Here's why it's significant. The Venus-Jupiter sextile aspect, which you can see in this chart here, there's Venus at 10 degrees and there's Jupiter at 12. So it's an applying sextile aspect as we speak. And so it was actually, well, it was 4 days ago, actually, when I went to the doctor. So Venus would have been about 6 degrees, right, of Leo. So she was building up to her sextile to Jupiter, okay? Now, I have Leo in my 7th house, so Venus is transiting my 7th house. And I've got a rulership book that it's like a little astrology Bible. It's fantastic. I have mentioned it before, and I'll just say the name of it now for those of you that don't know. It's called The Rulership Book by Rex E. Bills, and I highly recommend you get this book, because any word or thing that you can possibly imagine is in this book, and it tells you what it is associated to, which planet, which house, which sign, etc. And so in the section where the name doctors comes up, there are a few associations to doctors, but one of them is the 7th house. When you go to see your doctor, that's a seventh house experience, you see. And so Venus is in my seventh house when I went to see this doctor this time around, right? And so I found out a really important piece of information. That is that I'm not freaking allergic to penicillin, which I thought for the last 25 years. There's the sextile aspect to Jupiter, Venus to Jupiter, right? And of course, Jupiter is in Gemini, which is information. Venus is in my seventh house, which was my doctor giving me that information and giving me an antibiotic, actually, that has proven to be a lot more effective because I'm on day 4 at the moment, and the relief and how fast this infection is clearing up is you cannot even compare it to the last period where I was sick for 9 weeks and I took 4 courses of antibiotics. So that's why I'm mentioning this story and why this aspect is significant, because a sextile aspect, okay, basically represents an opportunity. Fundamentally, if you break it down to one word, it's an opportunity that presents itself. Now, what was the opportunity here for me? It was an opportunity for me to see somebody else and receive some information that's pretty important about my health that is going to serve me for the rest of my life, essentially, right? And also with sextile aspects, here's the thing that needs to be really understood about it. Sextiles and trines, okay, have a similar energy, but they are very distinct from each other. They're not exactly the same. With trine aspects, what usually happens is that it's an effortless flow of energy, and things end up working out and resolving themselves without us really doing very much at all. However, with a sextile aspect, it's not the same thing. It is said and understood in traditional teaching that a sextile aspect presents an opportunity, but it means that we need to be proactive. We need to do something, make a different decision, make a different choice, or make a decision altogether and activate the opportunity that can come out of the 2 planets that are sextiling each other, right? And so clearly that's what I did. I made a decision to go to a different doctor, and I got a very different result, which was much more favorable to me. And that's because Venus is involved here and Jupiter as well. So that's the backstory to sharing with you how you can actually, when you're looking at transits, there are so many possibilities that can manifest, that can represent out of the planets involved and the signs and so forth. And it all comes down to your story, your life story, your chart, where the planets are, what's going on in your life, and so on and so forth. Because, traditionally we'd look at Venus, Jupiter, in a sextile aspect. We normally wouldn't associate it to a story that I just explained. Would you think to yourself, if you saw a Venus-Jupiter sextile aspect, would you say to somebody, oh, go and see a different doctor because you might get a better result, you might not be allergic to penicillin, blah, 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 blah. It wouldn't happen, you know what I mean? So this is why everything that goes on in my life, I'm always observing, what's happening in the sky, and I'm drawing the correlations to the events. And that's how you learn astrology, simply put. So that's my little story that I wanted to share. Now, the other thing that I think is worth mentioning here as well, as I said, a sextile aspect means that we need to be proactive, we need to activate this energy. Versus a trine aspect, where things just naturally fall into place. So we can miss an opportunity, in other words, if we're not paying attention. So pay attention to where Venus is in your chart, transiting at the moment. Pay attention to where the Jupiter is in your chart at the moment, because the houses involved are going to speak to, pardon me, where this opportunity will present for you. Also, the other key factor to this is that this sextile aspect, it hasn't even perfected yet. However, I have already seen a beneficial result in my case, in my situation. And there's just another example. Pardon me, I've still got not a very nice cough. What we can see from this demonstration is that applying aspects are always incredibly powerful. Separating aspects seem to be not as powerful, but there are exceptions, right? But applying aspects can be looked at, as I said, Venus was probably about 6 degrees when I went to see my doctor, which was very close to my descendant. And that would have been, about 6 degrees away from the applying exactness to the sextile to Jupiter, yet it was already in play. And this energy is still in play right now as Venus continues to, move forward. And in a couple of days' time, she'll come to 12 degrees where she'll perfect the exactness of this aspect. But then I would say even post, I think it's the 21st, 22nd of July, around the full moon, by the way, you could even say post the exactness that there could still be, that window hasn't completely closed, until Venus really starts to move to about, I want to say maybe, 16, let's say about 16 degrees of Leo, then, she's moved a fair distance away from being sextile to Jupiter. Because with sextile aspects, we've got to sort of decrease the orb, and we're talking about a separating aspect as well, right? It's different with applying aspects, and it's different with separating aspects. Also, Venus is the esoteric ruler of Gemini. So this sextile aspect is, I feel like it's even more powerful than just a normal sextile aspect for a few reasons. First of all, it's the two benefic planets, Jupiter and Venus. In amongst the psychosis of society, I heard someone say something, gosh, the way he said it was just, it was so apt. I'm going to find it and play it, and hopefully you'll hear it.
Badge of honor to be well adjusted to a sick society.
Well said. Can you say that again?
It's not a badge of honor to be well adjusted to a sick society.
It's not a badge of honor to be well adjusted in a sick society. What a brilliant line. I don't even know who that guy is, but I found that on Instagram and I just thought, yeah, that is just, that is brilliant. Anyway, where was I going? I was going with the two benefics, that's right. So we have two benefics in a benefic aspect that represents opportunity. We have, all right, sure, Jupiter in Gemini is in its detriment. Okay, that's we must also pay attention to that. But in this case, there is a reception taking place from a level that normally would not be recognized in traditional astrology, because the reception that's going on here derives from esoteric astrology. That is that Venus is the ruler of Gemini in esoteric astrology. So that's a very, I think that just goes straight to spiritual content, straight to, because Venus ruling Gemini in esoteric astrology is there's many things we could say about those teachings, but one thing that I would like to say to that is the Venus ruling Gemini esoterically is teaching humanity how to love each other. Gemini is the archetype of brothers and sisters. And so Venus, being the esoteric ruler of Gemini, is simply saying that we must love all our brothers and sisters on the earth, not just our blood brothers and sisters, but we are all brothers and sisters. We all have a different story. We all have a different belief. We all have a different walk of life. We all have different opportunities. We all have different challenges. Some of us have yachts. Some of us have little floating devices in the sea. It's all different, right? But at the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters. And esoterically, Venus ruling Gemini, that's essentially the seed she's trying to imprint in our consciousness. So when we look at a sextile aspect between Venus and Jupiter, and Venus being the esoteric ruler of the sign that Jupiter is in, the highest and most fulfilling gift that we can receive from this aspect, and gifts are ruled by Venus, and of course Jupiter rules wisdom. So the highest gift that we are offered here is the understanding, the deep understanding of the love that exists, that is there, that is the fabric of everything, that holds everything together, that we are all a part of, regardless of our differences, So, gift of an opportunity for deeper wisdom to drop in, and because I was also thinking with this, I remember last year when there was a Jupiter, Venus, Neptune conjunction in Pisces. And, at the time, I thought that was going to be an unbelievable window, right? Just, what a phenomenal lineup. And I have to say, it really left some disappointment. There were some good things about it, but disappointment is one of the words that I strongly associate with Neptune, which rarely gets mentioned, by the way. And I think that's why we possibly didn't get the full benefit of Jupiter and Venus in Pisces. Venus exalted in Pisces, Jupiter rules Pisces, but Neptune was right there with it. So I was thinking about that today, and I thought, what an extraordinary window. And for some people, it might have been magic in certain ways. But there would have been many people who got the disappointment end of the stick, because Neptune, of course, has that not only potential, but more likelihood of sort of imprinting in our vision, if you like, such an idealistic expectation, which no one can meet, because it's the God source energy. When you project the goddess, God energy onto a human being, you will be left feeling disappointed. It's just, it's a truth. It's not even a personal opinion. Just look around at all the relationships, the challenges that all relationships have, especially when they're projecting the God or goddess onto their partner. At some point, that God or goddess is going to fall off that pedestal that you've placed them on, and you're going to see the real human being. And that's where true love will either prevail or fail. Love is not when everything is looking so romantically glorious and delicious. Love is when there's a real deep challenge and deep struggle and conflict, or whatever it is, and how you show up in your relationship with your partner. That's where love is really seen. When everything's easy, it's easy to love. When things are difficult, it's much harder to show that kind of love and care, isn't it? So Venus sextile Jupiter, I guess, once again, pay attention to the houses that those planets are transiting. And just remember, and also Venus in Leo, as I've mentioned numerous times, in Babylonian astrology, that is like a secondary exaltation. It's an extremely powerful position for the goddess to be in Leo. The lion is her primary animal as the goddess Ishtar in Mesopotamia, Babylonian times. And Venus is visible. So Venus's visibility, which I've talked about a lot, over the last couple of years, is an omen that should not be underestimated. Her invisibility is an omen that should not be underestimated as well. They are different experiences of our Venusian life when Venus is visible, when Venus is invisible. She's a morning star, when she's an evening star. These are all, ancient teachings. And I like what Ruman said, actually, when I in one of the videos we did, I said something like, I mentioned the word ancient in some context, and he said, well, I don't really see it as ancient astrology. It was beautiful what he said, and it's just so true. He said, it's just the truth of the sky. It's oneness. That's what astrology actually is. It's the oneness of everything. The divine source creation is the oneness of everything. Our left linear brain cannot fathom what that even looks like. We can try to intellectualize it and articulate it with various thoughts and ideas and perspectives, but in truth, I feel that to truly grasp the meaning of that, we must intuit it and feel it from our soul. It's not an intellectual thing. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the soul, so the universe, as Hermes Trismegistus once said. So Venus in Leo, her, secondary exalted position, very, very powerful position she's in right now. Visible in the evening sky as our evening mystical goddess. Unstable in relationships, though. That is a primary theme of the evening star as per Babylonian teachings. That doesn't mean, though, that people can't have stable relationships or can't be happy in relationships, but it does have that element and that side to her. You can think about it like this: the morning star, which is said to be much more stable in relationships, is see, the morning star Venus she's direct, she's transparent, she's right there. You can see what is happening with her. The morning star is when Venus is closest to the earth. She's like an earth goddess at that point in her cycle. When she's an evening star, she's closer to source, to the mysteries, to the divinities, to the mystical teachings and things of that nature. So even though she's Aphrodite, the goddess Aphrodite, in her evening star phase, she's known to be Aphrodite, which is the love goddess. Perhaps the way to understand that might be that the love goddess in the evening star phase it's not so much about this idea of romantic love on the earth. Maybe the deep mystical side to her relative to her being an evening star is the love that she has for the divine mysteries that have nothing to do with a sexual encounter or a romantic encounter or a relationship with a human being. So there's different ways to understand these wisdom teachings. Finally, before I go, while we have this gorgeous sextile aspect, which presents an opportunity that we must be receptive to so that we can be proactive about, or the opportunity can go, unseen, unnoticed, not acted upon. And there goes that window. Bye-bye. So it is up to us. But while that is happening, she's also, you know, forming this trine to the north node and a sextile to the south node. And that's important because Venus is the ruler to the south node. She rules Libra. The north node is our destiny because it is our destination. That applies both to transiting moon's nodes and our natal nodes as well. The word destiny derives from the word destination. Or the word destination derives from the word destiny. They're the same word. So Venus is supporting our destination towards the north node in Aries. She's forming a trine to the north node. She's in harmonious relations with the moon's nodes, and she rules the south node. And the polarity of Aries Libra, of course, is the axis of relationships. It's the axis of our own personal identity, our own personal autonomy, and also our relationships, others, which is Libra. And so here she is in this window of flow and support, trine, sextile, while she's actually forming this gorgeous sextile aspect to the god of wisdom, to a benefic planet. You know, these are all that we're talking about. Venus, Jupiter, benefic, delicious energies, with the nodes as well into the mix, where she is tuning into those nodes with complete flow and harmony. Just one other point, and then I'm going to go sextile aspects and trine aspects, whether it's looking at transits or natally. I mean, there are some differences, but overall, just when you are looking at trine and sextile aspects, well, when trine and sextile aspects are present, when there's quite a few of them going on, one of the greatest things that can come out of the energy of sextiles and trines is it brings harmony and balance into our self and therefore into our life. If you looked at a chart and that person had virtually no trines or no sextiles, maybe they had just one trine or one sextile, and everything else was squares and oppositions, you will find that that individual has, generally speaking, you need to look at the whole chart, you know, the soul, its evolutionary path, and so on and so forth to get a true evaluation. But generally speaking, a chart that doesn't have trines and sextiles is, and has numerous squares and oppositions, is dealing with constant change. You know, there's a dynamic energy present all the time. There's lots of challenge, there's lots of conflict, and they're always dealing with this influx of change coming in all the time. It's like there's no time to rest. And they can find it really difficult to bring balance into their life because there's no trines and sextiles bringing that energy in, bringing that ability to stabilize. So they're just going through the constant square and oppositions, which are very challenging aspects, or conjunctions for that matter as well. So that's just a side note, you know, when you are thinking about what trine aspects and sextile aspects can help with, you know, they really help harmonize balance within ourselves and within our life. So, and just finally, I think this is an interesting thing that Johnny Depp says. I just want to play it for you. And this is, this can be related to so much on so many streams, on so many levels, but it's so poignant for the world right now. Take a listen.
I don't have much further need for Hollywood myself. I'm how you guys feel, but yeah, I think it's a very strange, funny time where everybody would love to be able to be themselves, but they can't because they must fall in line with the person in front of them. You want to live that kind of life? I wish you the best. I'll be on the other side somewhere.
How brilliant is that? Anyway, I just wanted to share that as I leave you guys for now. And I'll see you guys very soon. Reach out if you want to do the goddess class next week. It's going to be amazing. Much love and Venus and star blessings to all of you.